You know, it's not that your son first finished Shas. Now you feel okay. You know, at least you got a good beginning now. Baruch Hashem. The start. It's not the Shem. If you stop there, it doesn't disown you. It's a start. By the way, you know, there's an idea. You know, the Chinese, they would ask about the children all the time. We do the same thing, the Jews, but they're really brutal. Your child, he's so wonderful. Mirthless child, how horrible. Oh, like, you know, like, you think Jews are dying horrible. Forget the Chinese. There's, of course, something this. As a father, you know, I can't really play up my son, you know. Also, all the more they play up your son, you're playing yourself up. You know? How much can you do, you know? Also, Baruch Hashem, nobody needs to really play up Eliezer. Baruch Hashem. It's a tremendous zchut, you know, as a father, to see a son that takes after, Baruch Hashem, my desire for Torah, and perhaps even more than my desire for Torah. Hashem should only be Yirbu, but Hashem, it's low. He only should have an increase in his thing, and also, of course, his brothers and sisters. It should always be that the one thing that they want in life, and the only thing they want in life, is Torah. In fact, I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't know. I have a very simple hashkafa. Only one thing in my mind. What's my hashkafa? Torah. One word. One word says it all. Nothing more than that. In fact, actually, so simple, you can't go wrong. It's the only hashkafa that I can write the entire book in one quick pass of the hand. He says, and guarantee that every Rav will agree without any questions asked. I don't have to worry about people putting chayim for anything, you know? I only have one hashkafa, so more Torah, more Torah, more Torah. That's it. There is an interesting thing that exists about parents. You know, parents and children. You know, in the Zohar, you know, you have the idros. It's like these are like the most deepest secrets of the whole Zohar. You have the Idra Rabbah and the Idra Zuta. The Idra Rabbah, this was actually from Rav Shimon Yochai earlier in his life, and the Idra Zuta was on his deathbed. And everybody knows the deathbed is his most highest secrets. Right? It's the last opportunity to be able to relate to his students the very secrets that he learned and accumulated throughout his lifetime in a way that he knew that this was it. Meaning he could put his entire neshama into it, and if it would leave, well, he's already on his way out anyways. What's the difference, the key difference between the Idra Zuta and the Idra Rabbah? The Idra Rabbah, which was written early in his life, never mentions Ima va'Abba. Doesn't talk about the parents. Doesn't talk about the parents, Ima Abba. It doesn't talk about the relationship of the parents to the children. It just talks about the relationship of Hashem and the husband and wife, the sons and the daughter. It doesn't really talk about the parents. In the Idra Zuta, in the moments before death, in the Idra Zuta, there in that place is the only mention and the first mention of the parents, Abba and Ima. So why? Right. So in the Shem, Nahatabot Sharim brings down Seventh Shar. He says, because you know, if you don't have the children, you don't have the parents. It's a very simple statement. It's a simple statement. If you don't have the children, you don't have the parents. What's missing? Well, it's very simple. You can't be a parent until you've got children. It's a very simple idea. But actually, you see, that's what makes you a parent, is the fact that you have children. Until you have the children, there's nothing to talk about. I mean, you have your avoda. Your avoda in life, day in, day out, is to go ahead and to put everything in. But until you have children, you don't have the avoda of the Gemara. You don't yet have that relationship. So really, my son may be father, maybe an Abba, maybe my wife Fatima. He gave us something, just in that. But of course, all of that is only dependent upon what he does with his life. It's very interesting that me as a parent, and of course I get my nachat. I get so much wonderful nachat from my children. But that nachat comes from the fact that that there's Torah in his life, that the mitzvot in his life. All of that comes to me. And by the way, How much do you think I enjoy it? How much do you think the grandparents enjoy it? How much do you think, in other words, in Shamayim, the grandparents upon the grandparents, and the effects that it has, mamash, adlam. Amazing things. You know, the thing is, parents have something to do, right? If really everybody knows, more or less, Nar Shalom is always about two things. Our Bet Knesset, our Kila is only about two things. Torah, as I said, because that's the Ashkafa, that's everything. And children. Everything in the shul, everything that exists here is only about or Torah or the children. And the reason for that is very simple. Because the reason for Torah is also to pass it down to the next generation. If the children are lost, then there's nothing to talk about. Then you exist, and then you just disappear. And there's nothing, there's what to talk about. It's there, came, went, finished. So it's both of those things. Always those two things here in the shul. The truth of the matter is, people that know me, I'm a very quiet person. Everybody that knows me, well, I'm pretty loud. Okay, I don't mean quiet in the physical sense of just quiet. I mean, people know that in general, everything is quiet. Baruch Hashem, we don't make a big rush. We don't run around, you know what I'm saying, advertising. We don't do it. Everything is very quiet. Very, very quiet. And the truth of the matter is, he says, really, when it comes to my family, I like to be even more quiet if I can. But yet, nevertheless, everybody knows that truthfully, you walk into the shul and you see my family. You see them, they get up, they go down, they walk around, they're learning Torah. My kids are coming, sometimes misbehaving, whatever it is they're doing, but they're always around for everybody to see. Although I do my best to keep it quiet, they're here to be seen, also to some extent. The fact that my son is doing a sium and basically everybody has the opportunity to see is a reason why. The reason why is because, you know what? Being an Abba, being an Ima requires also a lesson for people to learn. There's a lesson to learn. There's something to learn, to get that lesson. The lesson of parents and being a parent, it's something that can only come through shimush. It's very hard to get it from a sefer. It's very hard to get it from a book. And the thing is I made sure that everybody understands that everything that exists in my house can exist in your house. It's very possible. There's nothing about me, that makes something special. Every single person here can do the same thing with his kids, can have the same things in his house. Nobody said no. You want Talmidei Chachamim for children? Possible. You want anything you want. It's all possible. It's a question, how much are you willing to make the efforts for it? And it's an effort that every single person can make. It's not just anybody can make that effort. It's very, very simple. What was my hashkafa? Torah, Torah, Torah. If in your house is about Torah, if that's your whole focus, when will you learn next? When will be the next shiur that you go to? When will the next piece of Torah you learn? And you don't even have to be, doesn't matter what level you're on. But that's your idea, is to just always constantly push yourself one step further towards Torah. He says that's the trick to being a parent. That is what works. That's what makes a difference. I do my best, and my point is that it's something that everybody else here can do. It's not a secret. It's a recipe always for success. As a parent, you have two skills, right? You have two skills that you can use for teaching. One way of teaching is yashar. Straight out, you teach something. Son, do this. Right? You can also refer to something else. You want to teach him something. Vo katuv po. And he can read what's written. That's one way of learning. There's another way of learning. Another way, which is passive learning. Now, passive learning is a little different. Passive learning is you give an opportunity to children. You let all the children, and wherever you're teaching, parent, wherever you're teaching, passive learning means learning by example. By showing an example, by setting something up in a way that they learn it on their own. In this week's parsha, we see one of the most advanced lessons of all Torah. Interesting, where? What's the first lesson of Torah that we learn, that we see Hashem teaching directly. It's a very, very straight lesson to Moshe Rabbeinu. In this parsha, he tells to Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, I'm going to take you, and you're going to tell them, Ekesh sent you. Wait a minute. So, what do you, I am that I am. Just like I was, Rashi says, just like for the tzarot, right? The tzarot. Now, also for the tzarot, that's also going to be for you. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, what? They have so much problems now, I'm going to tell them about the future tzarot. So what does it say? It turns around and Hashem says, no, okay. Hey, I will be, that's the one that sent you. All of a sudden, Hashem changes the lesson. He changes the words. Now, doesn't Hashem know everything? Doesn't Hashem know the future? Doesn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu already know that this lesson, what this means? Why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this? So as we mentioned in the morning, for a very simple reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was teaching a lesson to Moshe Rabbeinu. Before we saw that Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, what schut does this Am have? How this people? And when he saw that one Jew turns to him and says, who are you to tell me what to do? Why are you telling me? Moshe Rabbeinu is ready to throw it all away. These Jews have no schut. When Hashem saw this, he said, I gave him a nice test. He gave him a nice mifkan. He says, now when he saw, basically, he says, when he saw that he had compassion, how could you make them have this star? How can you make them feel bad? He grew within Moshe Rabbeinu a sense of compassion, a sense of rachamim b'shvil Am Yisrael. This was to awaken in Moshe Rabbeinu who Moshe Rabbeinu was, that he should see. He says, do you see? You have it. You have the spark. You have what's supposed to be there. And that lesson that Moshe Rabbeinu that is taught by Hashem through the simple dibur, it's a very, look at the story. It's a very simple story, but it's a very simple lesson, a very powerful lesson. It let him find on his own, let Moshe Rabbeinu find on his own who he really is and how he really feels about Am Yisrael. He grew within Moshe Rabbeinu the Ava for Yisrael. It grew within Moshe Rabbeinu who Moshe Rabbeinu was, is, and will be. Now this lesson, such a simple lesson, can only happen in a parenting relationship. It can only happen, not yashar, not written straight out. It can only happen in a roundabout way. It can only happen with a passive form of learning. Moshe Rabbeinu was taught, in other words, he found his way on his own. So I'm going to tell you something else. So a lot of people say, maybe I don't have all the Torah. Maybe I don't have the skills. Maybe I'm not the greatest learner in Torah. How could a son turn out to be a Talmid Chacham if I'm not a Talmid Chacham? Right? It's a simple question. How can you say, how can my children end up B'nai Torah if I'm not such a B'nai Torah? The answer is that if you show your children the desire, the want, the drive, the importance, the chashivut, wow, it's important. If you create within them the awakening, just like Hashem creates the awakening in Moshe Rabbeinu for his Avad Yisrael, just like he awakens them to have love of Israel. If you bring that people and you show them the Ava for Torah, you show them the love for Torah, you awaken them through everything you do in your life. And again, we're talking simple things. For example, your son says, Abba, I want to go to the football game. Go to the football game. I don't want to go to the football. I want to hear the shur Torah, the rabbi. You think I should miss it for this? And you show how it's more important for you to be at the shur Torah than to be at the football game. That's just like Hashem waking up Moshe Rabbeinu's Ava is waking up our Ava for Torah. And every parent can do this. Every parent can go ahead and throw out the narishkeit, the foolishness of things in life and show their child, who needs this? Who needs that? It's not important. But Torah, how important this is. If we show our children the hashivut of Torah, and by the way, the importance of Torah, what is the importance of Torah? That we show that comes before other things. That this is the first thing on our mind. That this is what we truly want. He says, then all your children will have an awakening within themselves of Ava for Torah. Ava Yisrael is the same way. But that's a different speech. Ava for anything is awakened in the children when you give them these object lessons, these things which are not direct. You don't tell your child, learn Torah because Torah is good. Big deal. Just tell you, say, listen, learn Torah. And because it means so much to me. When I learn Torah, I feel so good. You do it and you'll see how good you feel. That's the difference. And every time, really, and I pick up the Sefer and I'm learning, I feel so amazing. After a couple pages of Torah, you walk out electrified. You feel amazing. For me, even simple things, Pshatim on the Torah, I love it. You sit down, it's a great, so geschmack, you feel so great. That you let your kids experience that by showing that to them, by telling them the Torah, by telling them how these things are wonderful. When you feel that, your children feel it. And that's the answer. That's the true answer. That's why it's possible for everybody. I don't care if you're the biggest Talmid Chacham in the world or you're the most tiny Am Haaretz. You can still make your children to become Talmidei Chachamim. Not. Efshar. It's possible. All you have to show is the Ava Yisrael for your children, the Ava Torah. He says this will spark in them what they need, and they'll go. Don't worry, it all goes. The Mesirat Nefesh that you do for children will for sure do. Things that you just do, they might do. B'ezrat Hashem, it should be mamash. I hope and always that at least, because the best I can do is hope that things will work out for my son. But Baruch Hashem, it's working out good. And B'ezrat Hashem, we can keep going better and better. And by the way, the real answer is, by the way, I'll tell you the answer to that thing. Why is it that the secret of a parent, mother and father, has to be at the end of his life? Why is that the Idrazuta? Why? The answer is like this. He says, you see, with all the Mesirat Nefesh that I have, all the effort that I put in, is so that my child might do it. But what happens is, in the end of my life, as my child then starts to grow, he says, so when he puts Mesirat Nefesh, that's his chelek, that's his part. You see, all the mitzvot, I could say, I did something. But Mesirat Nefesh that he does for Torah, he says, and his children, he says, that will be their part, and then that will transfer to the next generation, to the grandchildren. He says, so that's the idea. At the end of the life of Rosh Hashanah, he's able to tell them, to be a parent, you have to be Moser Nefesh as children. He says, and then, why? Because whoever's a child becomes a parent, and whoever's a parent becomes a grandparent, and so forth. He says, that's exactly the key thing that's happening here. B'ezrat Hashem, I see the one thing, and this is the real nachat. The real nachat is when I see my son being Moser Nefesh for Torah, then I know that his children, my grandchildren, will be Moser. What? I'll know they'll do Torah. They'll keep Torah. Are they more? I don't know. But for sure they'll keep Torah because I see my son being Moser Nefesh for Torah. See, that's the real nachat. Because that's like, you sit back. So now as an Abba, I have a Ben. Because I'm Moser Nefesh, he's Moser Nefesh, and then I know at least his children, at least will keep. But B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully I'm zocheh to see my grandchild be Moser Nefesh for Torah. And then I know for sure it's good. B'ezrat Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem.
Zaku Baruch.
Don't everybody get the hug is